Hi everyone, and welcome to the Rave conference. It's a great honour to open a conference, and I remember fond memories of our previous ones and meeting you all, and it was great fun. And hopefully we'll be able to do that again sometime soon. Well, welcome to my world, and my world's been, in this loft for quite a long time, though we do tend to get out, and lockdown changes, it seems, daily. So I just thought I'd open with not the usual CTO technology bashing, but there will be, of course, technology mentioned, but how, the crisis has perhaps changed the world, sometimes the worse, sometimes the better, how technology can help, how Northgate, who are the owners of Rave, have tried to help too, and maybe food for thought for all of us. I've kind of entitled it, Has COVID Broken Capitalism or Changed Capitalism for the Better? And I guess the jury's out for that. And maybe it will be for some time, but we've seen some extraordinary things, huge levels of debt, governments that we never thought would be supporting workers through things like furlough and spending vast amounts on healthcare. Where will it take us? I don't know, but let's explore a few ideas. I read the other day something quite extraordinary, which was that, there's a lot of talk about aid and aid to third world countries. And I read an amazing headline that said, about $1 trillion of aid goes to Africa, but $3 trillion of aid goes out in terms of payments and other loan repayments and other debt. So, as you can imagine, 1 into 3 doesn't really go. So it doesn't look like a very, very good solution to change the world through that kind of debt. And maybe the kind of debt that we're ranking up even in the UK, we've got to consider, at some time, is it sensible that it's to be repaid? And, we all like to have our debts paid, but I wonder whether the world is ready for some kind of change. And we think about, we've had a thing called furloughs, an American word. I've not really used it before, but those people who were not able to work, their income was paid up to about 80% by the government and 20% by companies. That's changed a bit now, and I can't even remember what the details are because it changes so quickly. But the interesting thing there is it really the start of a basic income? If you look at sort of more closely aligned societies where there's not vast differences between the most lowest paid and highest paid, and those are the most wealth and least wealth, like Sweden, they in fact do have a basic income. I believe Norway has too, which means that even if times are hard, really there's not much difference between your quality of life and the quality of life of the people who, fortunate to be in jobs and kind of at the top 5 or 10% of that society. So perhaps, we're starting to think on those lines. We've always considered that growth is good, and growth is the right thing for capitalism, and it's the right thing for prosperity. But when we think what's happening with our seas, plastic, with the weather, with climate change, with all those kind of crises, we have to ask ourselves, at what price? Really, at what price? And it takes someone with courage like Greta Thunberg to really speak out against this, and even though she's been demonized many times, as kind of immature and naive, I think it's something that rings home with all of us, and any of us who've got children or grandchildren, got to think about what world will they inherit. So maybe it's time to rethink economic growth. It's a bad thing, but maybe we've just not been doing it right. And if you look at what we've been doing here in Northgate is when the COVID crisis happened, we offered the UK government and its departments all the help we could, sometimes for free, sometimes at cost. We actually, with our partners in New Zealand, we developed a COVID app pretty early, and it was working, an isolation app. We did offer it to the UK government, but they were then well on the way with their own platform. But we did offer it at cost because we wanted to do whatever we could to help. Similarly, we had a lot of workers who weren't able to carry out their daily duties because, for example, in diabetic eye screening, we actually, of course, meet patients face to face, and that couldn't happen for a while. So many of these were actually redeployed in government departments. Particularly interesting one was in the UK, we have a lot of native Welsh speakers, and it's a recognised language. And we also have Welsh speakers who are in our clinical teams, and they redeployed the Welsh government to help with giving out benefits and claims and so forth for people in desperate need. And they were really grateful for that. And it shows that, companies, capitalism can work for the better, for the greater good. So there's a possibility of change for us all. And those who know me know that I'm a big fan of the FOSS model, free open source software. All of us use it every day. We may not think so. Every time we type in HTTP in URL, we're using it. Every time we use the internet, we use it. So many of our lives are used by that. Anyone who uses an Android phone uses that. Even someone who uses a Mac. Right at the back of a Mac is, of course, FreeBSD is the core OS in a Macintosh, and an iOS phone. And similarly, we can see now Microsoft have open sourced their main development platform, .core, which can run on lots of platforms. So there's a world of change out there where people are seeing different opportunities and different models where, the economic model means that there perhaps can be success for us all, but there's opportunities there for those who can't afford very, very expensive models to get going. We've only got to look at AWS and Airbnb. All of them run with open source software, and some give back more than others. But let's not talk about those today. There's still the gouge monopoly model. Many of us suffer from that. Is then when a lot of power gets concentrated in one group, and we're seeing antitrust now with Google, and we saw that many years ago with Microsoft. Where that will go, I'm not sure, but my bets are someone as powerful as Google. Probably there may be some lip service to that. There's the Hoover New Deal model, which again, extraordinary times. You have a conservative government that seems to be embracing build, and also wind power. I think 10 years ago we'd have found that extraordinary. So again, uncharted waters, literally. Just something I wanted to talk to you about was I read a lot of economics books and current affairs. I know that's a kind of geek inside me, but it's very interesting. There have been some new models, particularly one called the donut model, which says, there's kind of a sweet ring where we can do the best for everyone and our planet and our future. Beyond that, we're sacrificing and burning resources that we can't afford to do. And within the core, there are kind of basic things that still are not there for basic human needs. A very, very interesting book. And I've got the titles on some slides at the end if you'd like to read it. It's very readable, and written by a very, very respected economist. We can't go far without talking about technology. Can it help? It's true that AI and ML are helping to solve problems. They're certainly helping to solve problems about the COVID virus and how it's constructed and how better it can be defeated. There probably are some outlandish claims about how effective it is, but it's certainly a great tool. I think we've still got a long way to go because it still isn't as smart as a person in understanding outlier cases and kind of poor data. But we're seeing amazing things now with like wind and hydrogen systems. So we have the means now, and it looks like we're having the will now to solve a lot of those problems. And maybe we don't even need nuclear anymore, as long as we can store that power somewhere. So we talked about green tech, and it's interesting that we in the UK we're building a great lot of infrastructure called HS2, massive rail system connecting our northern cities with London. It was seen as something that would encourage growth, and I must admit I was a fan, even though it was not popular with what it would do to some very beautiful parts of the UK. But now, are people really going to travel anymore that much? I don't know. Very few of us have been on a plane. Probably very few of us are going to go on a plane. Very few of us go on a train. So very interesting times. And still, we see that we're going electric cars. It's the way forward. Is it? I'm not so sure. We know that I own a diesel car. It was supposed to be the latest and greatest thing, and low pollution and so forth. Now they're condemned. And the fact is, if I take it to a recycling centre, it'll take me about 10 years to recover those costs to the planet if I buy a new car, even an electrical vehicle. So those things have to be considered. And it's interesting also that 50% of the pollution that comes from cars is from brake dust and tyre crumb. And that is a long way to be solved yet. We still have to brake, and those tyres still have to roll. Unfortunately, we're very good at better killing machines using technology, which is a shame. I think things like digital inclusion has helped with education. Of course, one big problem is if you're a family of 6 and you've got one laptop, it's not so smart. If you've got nowhere for your kids or your teenagers to study, that's very difficult. So a lot of inequalities there. And we've seen that big promises like in the UK, like test and trace, a lot harder to do than to say, even with AI and ML behind it, because things have to be thought through properly. I hope you're going to have a great conference. Just wanted to kind of put some kind of thoughts in your minds. I'm sure you share those, and you may have differences of opinion, and you may have a great and unique thoughts as well about where we're going to go. But I'll leave you a few good book titles I've been reading. As you're not on the train anymore going to work, you can spend a bit of time on a Sunday afternoon perhaps having a read. Donut Economics by Kate Rushworth, excellent. Good Economics for Hard Times, another great book. And 20 Things They Don't Tell You About Capitalism, another good one. So have a fantastic conference. I can't wait to listen to all the presentation speakers, and I'll see you at the Q&A. All right. Ciao, ciao. Bye now.